Ready? Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this question and answer session, this important event which is taking place in Scouting. Before we get started, my name is John Honeycutt. I'm on one of the committees. Before we get started, let's stand and pledge. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Scout is reverent. Lord, we thank you for this day. Help us to do our best every day and forgive us when we slip. Teach us to be kind to other people and to help others at all times. Bless our parents and teachers and leaders and all the members of Scouting. Bless us, Lord, in your love for us. Help us to be better Scouts and let us do our best for you. Amen. Amen. I'd like to introduce a few and have a seat. We have two of our key three here. Mark Larson, who's our council chairman. Brad Nashon, who's Commissioner Brad Nashon, our scout executive, who's out there in the hallway. Henry Long, who's the chairman of the Family Scouting Committee. Charlotte Pemberton, who's going to tell us about questions and answers. Bill Givler, where did Bill go? Bill, oh, there he is. Bill Givler, who's the field director. And then we've got Bill Eggleston, who's the other co-chair of the Family Scouting Committee. So if we start out with Henry, give us a Family Scouting overview.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank John and Bill for hosting us tonight, and I'd like to thank you for being a Scout volunteer, for coming tonight, and for your interest in Family Scouting. As John mentioned, I'm the chair of the Family Scouting Committee. It's a new committee. It's actually right much work, but I'm really enjoying it because I've had an opportunity to meet 5 or 6 Scout volunteers that I've never worked with before, and they're great people. They're very talented, and that's inspired us all. So thanks everybody on the committee. In the next few minutes, I'm gonna cover 4 topics. I'm gonna start out going through and just give you the basics of the decision that the Scouts made. Second, I'm going to review the case for change underlying that decision. Third, I'm going to cover the decision-making process that the BSA used to make the decision on Family Scouting. And the second and third parts, the second and third thing that I'm going to talk about, a lot of the information is drawn from a video, which was a town hall meeting that Mike Serball, the CEO of the Scouts, led. So I'm just sort of rehashing some of the things he said. And then the fourth thing I'm going to cover is how Family Scouting is being implemented in the Heart of Virginia Council. So first, what programs are being extended to girls? And I think you're probably already familiar with the basics. But in October, the BSA board voted unanimously to extend programs to girls starting in 2018, starting with Cubs in 2018. The new program will not be co-ed. There'll be boy dens and girl dens. PACs and chartered organizations will have 3 options. The first option is they can continue hosting just a boy PAC, and if they make that decision, that's fine. The second option is to start a girl PAC with all girl dens, and the third option is to have a PAC with both boy and girl dens. Last week, National provided some information on the rollout, and they said there will be new manuals for the fall. There will be no program change, but the manual will have pictures of both boys and girls. Second, a new program for girls ages 11 to 17 will be introduced in 2019. The program will have the same curriculum is the Boy Scout program, and there'll be a path to Eagle Scout. I expect that we may get some more information on that later this year. When we have it, we'll share it with you. The second thing I wanted to cover was the case for change underlying the decision. This is not something that came up for the first time in 2017. For years, Scout families and prospective Scout families have been asking the BSA to extend programs to girls. They see the benefits of character development, of leadership, and in a lot of cases already have kids participating in family camps and day camps. So first and foremost, my opinion is that the major driver that what drove this is BSA families. In the town hall video, the chief said that there have been task forces that have been studying various aspects of this for about 15 years. And one of the things they studied in this process was the changing dynamics of families. And they found that families are busier than ever, have less free time. There are more single parent families, more dual learning families, and have some additional resources, or some additional research they've done that indicates that busy families are looking for, would be very interested in a convenient, positive youth development program that involves the entire family. And that's what we're trying to do with family scouting. The research also shows that Hispanic and Asian populations are growing. These are two groups that are underserved right now by scouting, and they like to do things as families. Several weeks ago, one of our board members made a presentation to a local Hispanic group. I think it was the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And when he talked about family scouting, you got a roaring ovation from the group. Scouting has traditionally been the strongest among the white middle class. I should have silenced my phone.
Wait a minute, Henry, it could be a prospective Cub Scout wanting to join.
I don't recognize the number.
Think positive.
So scouting has traditionally been strongest among the white middle class. And this is a demographic in our country that has been declining and projected to continue to decline. So with family scouting, we have an opportunity to help our membership, because hopefully we'll attract some of these underserved Hispanic and Asian families, and we certainly should get more kids by offering the program to girls. So there may be a membership benefit. And finally, the scouting program will simplify things for families and bring the character and leadership development aspects of scouting to as many families as possible. And that can only be good for our country. The third thing I wanted to cover was the process that the BSA used to make this decision. As I mentioned earlier, family scouting is something that the BSA has been talking about and considering for years. As part of the research that I mentioned earlier, we engaged some education experts, and we asked them to look at the curriculum for Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And their conclusion was the curriculum is just as relevant for females as it is for males. To move forward with a more formal process to make a decision on family scouting, back in April, our chief scout executive called a meeting of all of the council scout executives. It was held in Dallas. Brad, you attended.
Yes.
And in that meeting, with all the Scout executives, they were presented the research, the case for change. There was a lot of opportunity for debate and discussion. And at the end of the conference, the Scout executives voted overwhelmingly that the conversation around family scouting ought to be taken to the volunteers at the National Council meeting. And that meeting was held in Orlando in May. So the council executive meeting was in April, the annual meeting was in May. There were about 1,000 volunteers in Orlando. And again, the research and business case for family scouting was presented to those volunteers. And they were also asked to vote on whether the conversation should move forward to the council level. And over 93% of those volunteers said, yes, the conversation about family scouting ought to move to the council level. So during the summer, town hall meetings were held across the country. I believe we had 3 town halls in the Heart of Virginia Council. They were led by Brad and Mark and by our president, Gordon Frutel. And after those meetings, volunteers that attended those meetings had an opportunity to fill out a survey. And I think at the end, about 11,000 surveys went to national. And based on all the conversations they've had, the input in the surveys, a resolution to approve family scouting was taken to the executive board of the BSA. I believe this is in October. They debated it and recommended that it goes to the full board, and the full board, as I said earlier, voted unanimously to approve family scouting, and that took place in October. The last thing I wanted to cover was how we're implementing family scouting in the Heart of Virginia Council. Our committee has already met 2 times, and we have done a lot of work already been undertaken by the committee to put us on a path for a well-executed implementation. Committee has 3 objectives. The first objective is to successfully implement scouting for girls, for Cub Scouting for girls this year. The second objective is to implement the program for girls 11-17 in 2019. And the third objective, and this is a core underlying principle and objective, we want to do these implementations without having any impact on the core program for boys. On the committee, we have 16 members, have a lot of scouting experience, a lot of brain power, great diversity, and representation from each district. The role of the committee is to provide overall leadership. And what that means is to provide planning, organizing, communications, and oversight. In getting the work done, we've decided not to reinvent the wheel. We're going to use the existing committees and existing infrastructure to do the work. So we've mobilized 6 of our committees: the membership committee, the marketing committee, the program committee, the property committee, the training committee, and the governance committee. And we're also working through the commissioners, district committees, getting great support from the district executives, and our professional support is Bill Gilbert, who's doing a terrific job for us. So we have work in 7 areas that we need to do, and we call those work streams. So we have 7 work streams. The first is internal communications, and that's communications to the district committees, the chartered organization, troops and packs, parents and scouts. And that work is being led by Bill Eggleston.
And John Honeycutt.
Well, I was getting to that. Our
Okay.
second work stream is recruiting. And recruiting is being led by John Honeycutt and the membership committee. The initial work between internal communications and recruiting, there is a lot of overlap. So we've asked those two committees to work closely together. And their current focus is to work with the districts to prepare district volunteers who will be primarily commissioners and district committee members to have a conversation with chartered organizations and with PACs about which of the three options would be best for their unit. The overall objective of the team is to be ready to start registering girls on August 1st through our Joint Scouting Night program. You may have heard that the National did offer an early adoption program to start in January. And about a third of the councils nationwide have decided that some of their PACs will be early adopters. Our key three and our board debated this a lot, and we decided not to pursue the early adoption. We feel like this is a complex implementation. We want to have plenty of time for training and recruiting new volunteers. We're going to need a lot of new volunteers. And we also wanted to give girls a longer time to achieve their rank. We feel like that would improve retention. The third work stream is external communications, which is dealing with the media, corporate partners, and donors. That work stream is being led by Matt Hadley and the marketing committee. The council has engaged Padilla, which is a national public research firm, a public relations firm located in Richmond, and for a very nominal amount, they're helping us with this effort. I'd like to mention that this group has started a family scouting website on the HOVC website. We've already posted a link to all of the information from National, which is very helpful. And there'll be a lot of council-specific information in our timeline, our training schedule, key contacts that'll be posted in that website. The fourth work stream is facilities modifications, working through the properties committee, and they're planning on doing an audit of our facilities. The fifth work stream is program. That's led by Phil Victor. The sixth work stream is training, led by John Turner. And the training calendar will be posted on the HOVC Family Scouting website. And when you look at it, you'll see that we've significantly increased the amount of den leader training. And then the seventh work stream is governance, which is led by Jim Campbell and the governance committee. National has recently provided some guidance on 2D leadership. I think we're going to see a video on that later on tonight. So just to wrap it up, family scouting is a big change. And we have a lot of work in front of us to do a seamless implementation. The implementation is going to require contributions from a lot of volunteers. And there are three things that will be really important for each volunteer to keep in mind: clear communication, attention to detail, and follow up when you make a commitment to do something. Like all successful organizations, the BSA has evolved a lot since its founding in 1910. In 1971, we invited girls to join exploring. We now have girls in venturing programs, Sea Scouts, and STEM Scouts. We have Scout sisters who've been shadowing their brothers at day camps and family counting events. Women are providing great expert leadership for Paxton troops since the 1980s. And actually, in the rest of the world, scouting is already open to women. So I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a really good change for scouting. I think family scouting is an evolution that'll really be good to meet the needs of today's families. And I think the Scout Oath and the Scout Law and our outdoor program and our character development programs and our leadership development programs are more relevant than ever, and are relevant for both young men and young women. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Our next speaker will address additional talking points and review the council's timeline is Charlotte Pemberton, who is a member of the committee and is also the next Wood Badge Course Director. Charlotte?
So Henry has covered a lot of detail of where our committees are going, and we still have a lot of work to do, and we're all very enthusiastic about it. But the purpose of all that detail is to let you know how much effort we are putting into this, that we want to make sure that this is delivered at a level of excellence that our current program is now being delivered at for the boys. And so we absolutely want to help units do this and be very successful at it. We want our council to be successful at it. And so we have a lot of stake here. It's all very important to us. And so that's the reason for all that detail. It wasn't to make you go to sleep. You're waking up now. Okay. So let me reiterate just a couple of points that Henry made at the beginning. Okay. This current program that is single gender for boys is going to continue. It will not change. It will continue in the way that we have been doing Boy Scouting for years. It's a very strong program. We want to keep up with that. What they are offering, though, is a second single gender program that's being offered for girls. The activity of the program will be the same, whether it's a gender for boys, a gender-based program for boys, or a gender-based program for girls. But the organization is going to be a little different. And as Henry mentioned, there are 3 choices that the charter organization can make, along with their unit leadership. They can have an all-boy pack with no girl dens, all-boy pack just as we are today. They can have one pack with girl dens and boy dens. Again, single gender, okay, but individual dens. Or they may want to start an all-girl den. Maybe that serves a need with their local, community or organization. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. To call it co-ed is not correct. We are not actually mingling the boys and girls together in the same den. They're going to be separated. Okay. Let's see here. So Henry also talked an awful lot about our next steps and what all these committees are doing and things like that. In your attachment, there is a calendar. I do have some updates to it that I want to share with you. If you want to turn to one that looks like this, okay, this is an evolving process. So let me talk to you about how we're going to actually execute what Henry has talked about. So in January, we had family scouting committee members go out to meet at roundtables, go out to meet at district committees. With our snow, we had some cancellations, so we're going to continue that in February. But we actually went out and reached out to the district leaders to talk to them about this program. We also worked with the district key 3 in each district, okay, to ask them to help us identify liaisons. And the purpose of a liaison is for someone, a volunteer leader, to go and work with individual units if they need some help sort of thinking through this decision-making process. You will have some units in some charter organizations that will already know what their position is. You will have others that maybe kind of struggle with it a little bit. But we're just to help provide information and to help provide a forum for that discussion. Because we want a strong decision to be made for whatever that unit is and whatever that charter organization is. So we're going to ask the district key threes to pick key members, key volunteers that may be trained as liaisons, okay? And we're going to provide that more in-depth information and training and things like that to help them work with units, and that's going to take place in February. So that's one aspect that we're working on. We have asked the district commissioners if they already have heard feedback from different units. Either we've got to work through it, we already know what the decision is. Can they start to aggregate that information for us? Okay. So we've been asking to help them, to help us with that. We are also having today the Q&A session for district leaders. And then we also sent by email and paper letter a letter to each key three members, telling them that National has made this program available. As far as a single gender for girls, the liaison will be contacting you so that we can have that discussion and make sure that a decision can be made for that unit. And so that went out on January 31st.
We'll go up.
Yes, not 31st, we'll go out 31st, okay. So in February, we're gonna continue that communication that we've already started with, council and districts, folks such as yourself, units and parents. We're gonna continue to hopefully identify those PACs and where they are as far as that decision-making process. As I mentioned, we'll have the liaison training on February 13th. And then we're going to put together some information around best practice materials to help units then make progress towards incorporating a single gender girl program in with their units. And then in March, by the 15th, we hope to have all the liaisons having met with their charter organization reps, as well as unit leaders for all the different units. We hope to have that accomplished by March 15th. And then we're gonna follow up with those liaisons to find out what the feedback is, what the decisions are over the next few weeks after that. Then in April 15th, that's our target to have a final list of what everybody has decided. All the units, here's the list. We're going to go with just boy packs. We're going to have a pack with girl and boy den, or maybe even just a girl pack. And then once we have that information as far as what all the units are gonna do, then we start preparing for the actual back-to-school nights that'll take place, late August for some units, but most in September. So we again want you to be successful in recruiting, as always boys, but also girls, if that's your unit's choice. How do you also recruit leadership? What about the training? How do you actually get this off the ground so that you're successful within your unit? And that's what we're pulling together in that May through August timeframe. If you'll notice in your packet, we have a list here. It's been updated. We're always improving and adding, but if you look at this list here of the training that we have at this point, you will see that there is a number of den leader sessions that are going to be offered in the summer, as well as our usual den leader sessions that are going to be offered in the fall, trying to get a jump to incorporate those new leaders, because we're going to need them. We're going to need them. So my only point here is that we've got a pretty full agenda to accommodate that. And then in September, join Scouting Night, go. So we're very excited about that. Any high-level questions about the calendar or what I've said so far? Okay, so on the front page where you had your agenda for tonight, Henry had mentioned, right there is the website reference here to National, so that you can look at some of those materials that National's put out. They have a letter, they have a Q&A, So if you want to go back and refresh yourself on what we talked about tonight, or find out what the national position is about a particular question, you can go there. Okay? And the video that we're going to show tonight that actually talks about not just the changes involving in family scouting, but also some other path changes that are coming out for this year, I guess, 2018. That's the link there as well, down there, so you can look at that.
Charlotte, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Our next presenter is Bill Giller, who's our field director, who's going to show us some interesting videos. We don't have any popcorn tonight, but you can buy some from the council when they.
So while the machines are warming up, the video that we're going to show is you can watch it at your leisure at home. The link is right here. It says updates video of January 8th. That's what we're talking about. And so there's a little URL. And then this video it has a password attached to it that you actually have to type in once you get there. And you have to type it in just like it reads there with capital letters and the @ symbol and all that stuff. So this video is designed for PACs that decided to do the early adoption of the Family Scouting Program. And so you may have seen press releases or things online about people as early as January 15th signing girls up into Cub Scouts. That's absolutely the truth and legitimate. Again, about a third of the councils in the country decided to offer that and make it available to some of their Cub Scout packs who really wanted